like Hulk. Move any mountain, I trample any building like Hulk.
Thank you for that intro, and I see our Honorable Prime Minister has arrived. So we shall wait and greet Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and political leader of the People's National Movement.
The road is long, no matter what come, I know I'm gonna make it. Yes, I'm gonna make it. Even though the road is long, no matter what come, I know I'm gonna make it. Yes, I'm gonna make it.
Remember the days of totes in water, anytime that you have to bid. Oh, when people pass and they see you, oh my Lord, used to feel that shame. Wondering if this lasts forever, wondering when you will feel proud. If it's one thing Daddy didn't tell me, there is sunrise after each cloud. I say, even though the road is long, no matter what come, I know I'm gonna make it. Oh Lord,
Yes, I'm gonna make it.
even though the road is long, no matter what come, I know I'm gonna make it.
Yes, I'm gonna make it.
Right here, but I catching the power. Feeling the bass and I catching the power. Don't know what to do, but I catching the power. It's a spiritual.
All right. Good now, better timing. So now I can say to the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and political leader of the People's National Movement. My cabinet colleague, the Attorney General, Mr. Faris Alwari, Member of Parliament for San Fernando West. And he likes to remind me that without the Attorney General, we have no cabinet. So you have to look after Faris. Chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, Ms. Susan Hong. Our councillor for Mon Coco Alice Glen. Did I get it right? Mr. Denombriga. I also got that right. And our candidate for Mon Coco Alice Glen and our returning councillor for Mon Coco Alice Glen, Mr. Denombriga. Our other 9 brilliant candidates for the region of Diego Martin. Look at them all in front of me. 9 winners together with Mr. Denombriga. That makes 10. Other party officials, other cabinet ministers, members of parliament, our Lady Vice Chairman, Ms. Camille Robinson Regis, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I was looking at something that falls into the category of getting it done. And what I'm talking about is our national airline, Caribbean Airlines. And I don't know if you know that 2007, 2008, we put Caribbean Airlines in funds, changed PWIA to Caribbean Airlines. We paid off all of BWI's debts, cost us $2 billion at the time, and we gave Caribbean Airlines $1 billion. They had $1 billion in the bank when the government changed in 2010. What did that previous government do? They took all the money that was in the bank and they bought those propeller planes that now service the Tobago route cash. Nobody in the airline industry does that. Either lease a plane or you take a loan for it. Nobody takes their cash, take $1 billion and buy planes cash. But they did that, they're smart. And then what happened? I have the results in front of me. This is what happened under that former government to Caribbean Airlines. In 2010, the airline lost $416 million. In 2011, Caribbean Airlines lost $596 million. In 2012, Caribbean Airlines lost $1,336 million. These are losses I'm talking about, I'm not talking about profit, So you know what happened? They take all the cash, they buy the planes, they had no money. They're losing all of this. The taxpayer had to support Caribbean Airlines. It got to the point where the Treasury couldn't support them anymore. They mortgaged the planes. So they take your cash, buy the planes, then they mortgage the planes. So what happened in 2013? They lost $486 million. 2014, they lost $425 million. 2015, they lost $315 million. If you do a quick addition of those numbers, you will get over $3 billion in losses under the former government. That was performance their way. Now, let's see what's going on under PNM, because we are getting it done. In April of this year, Caribbean Airlines reported its profits for 2018. And hear what the story has to say. I'm reading from the Newsday of the 26th of April. Caribbean Airlines makes $42 million profit in 2019. Caribbean Airlines has reported a $42 million profit, although it continues to lose money on the air bridge. In a statement yesterday, the company released a summary of its results for 2018, announcing a $111 million operating profit. You heard the numbers I called you before? Minus 1 billion, minus 400 million, minus 500 million. And now on the 22nd of November, that's yesterday, I believe. Yesterday, Caribbean Airlines delivered strong performance for 2019. Caribbean Airlines reported its 9 months results for 2019, showing a profit before tax of $121 million. And if they didn't have to deal with the air bridge, because Caribbean Airlines subsidizes the air bridge, we give them $400 for every passenger that flies on the air bridge, but it costs more than that. So that for every passenger that Caribbean Airlines transports between Trinidad and Tobago, you and we, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, as part of our responsibility to you, the people, we subsidize that airfare. So that if they did not have to deal with the airfare, Caribbean Airlines would have made a profit of $153 million. But even so, after dealing with the subsidy on the air bridge, they made a profit of $121 million. That is called getting it done. No longer do we have to prop up Caribbean Airlines. No longer do we have to bail them out to the tune of $1 billion. Let me tell you about another one. Remember Petrotrin? When I came into government, Dr. Rowley, Ms. Hong, I too thought he was crazy. When Dr. Rowley offered me the portfolio of finance, I said, what? What? You're in this thing to do what you have to do. So I embraced the position, and I think I've done okay. I think I've done all right. But let me talk to you about Petrotrin. We came into government. First year, Petrotrin lose $2 billion. Second year, Petrotrin lose $2 billion. Third year, Petrotrin lose $2 billion. Billions and billions and billions of losses. In fact, if you look at the closing of accounts for Petrotrin for 2018, when they had to take account of all the money that they had lost over the years, it was $16 billion in losses. That is what Petrotrin had to report in 2018. But I have with me the financial statements for Trinidad Petroleum and for Paria Fuel Trading and for Heritage Petroleum. And let me explain what we did. We split Petrotrin into 5 companies. Trinidad Petroleum, Heritage Petroleum, Guarafara Refining, actually it's 4 companies, and the old Petrotrin. Guaracara we put the refinery inside of that, which is now the subject of discussions with the Oilfield Workers Trade Union and their special company called Patriotic. Put the refinery inside of there. Because we always wanted, after we dealt with the problems, to see whether we could restart that refinery and make it profitable. Heritage Petroleum took over the oil production that Petrotrin used to do, and Paria imports fuel. So you've gone from a situation where every year Petrotrin was losing $2 billion. That's 2,000 million. $2,000 million of taxpayers' money was going into Petrotrin every single year. Well, let me tell you what the results of the new companies were for the first quarter of the first half of the operations, because they started in November and they've been going now for just about a year, almost a year. For the first 6 months to June 2019, the profit before taxation, $500 million. Let me say that again. For the first 6 months ending 30th of June 2019, profit before tax, $500 million. So we took a company that was losing $2 billion, turn it around, it's now making $500 million. And both Heritage Petroleum and Paria Fuel Trading are profitable. So we've been doing a lot of work in your government, a lot of work to deal with the problems that we faced. I need to repeat the kind of problems that we faced. We need to say these things all the time. When the other government was in power, oil was $100 a barrel. When we came in, oil dropped to $40. And the next year, it dropped to $26. In February of 2016, oil dropped to $26 a barrel. That is what we had to deal with. $26 a barrel. And what they were doing, even though they had $100 oil for 5 years, that's the average they had. 5 years of $100 oil. That's why they could spend and misappropriate. They had plenty money to spend and misappropriate. When we come in, oil dropped to $26. You know what that did to us? The revenue in this country under them, the kind of money they receive, was close to $56, $57 billion a year. When we came in 2016, we were facing revenue of $36 billion. We lost $20 billion in revenue and government income. And that is money that is needed to pay public servants' salaries, to keep our water and sewage authority afloat, to keep the lights that you see here shining, to make sure that all of our social services, old age pension, welfare payments are intact. Government needs its money for that. We lost $20 billion, 20,000 million dollars. And still we manage. Still we manage losing $20 billion. And what we've been able to do over the last 4 years is to grow that income. We haven't reached 57 yet. We're at 47 now. But we were able to grow it from 37 billion in 2016 to 47 billion in 2019. That's what we've been able to do. And that is why this country is still intact. And you have to thank your P&M government for that. Everybody sacrificed. Every minister sacrificed. Every minister put their shoulder to the wheel and worked. And that is why now, as things are getting better, we're not out of the woods yet. I want all you to understand that things still difficult. It's not easy. It will take a while. Take a while. And let me tell you how we got that money. A lot of the things that we did, people say we couldn't do it. For example, they say we could never get back any money from CLICO. In fact, one of the things that we were faced with when we came in, the government had spent over $20 billion bailing out CLICO. Over 20 billion, 23 billion plus. And when we came in, we faced a situation where the owners of CLICO decided to walk. They owed us $23 billion and they decided to walk. They were not going to pay back that money. We went to court, put them into liquidation. They said it could never be done. Win the case. Case went all the way to the Court of Appeal. We win the case. Go in Privy Council. We win the case. And we've been able to recover billions of dollars from CLICO and the other associated companies like CLICO Investment Bank. Billions of dollars. That's how we did NIF. Y'all remember NIF? Where we gave back to you so you could earn 4%, 5%, 6% on your savings. If you put your money in the bank, you're getting 0.5%. If you had bought NIF bonds, you could get up to 6.6% on the longer term ones. You know how we did that? We took $8 billion from what we recovered from CLICO. We had Republic Bank shares. We had other shares. We put them all into a fund. We call it the National Investment Fund. And we use that as collateral to offer bonds to the public at very generous interest rates. That's how we were able to do that. And not only that, the government is now the majority shareholder of Republic Bank. And we are now putting directors on the board of Republic Bank, your government, to look out for your interests. That's what your government has done. People say we would sell out everything to the 1%. Never happened. We kept it for you and your children and your grandchildren. We put it into the National Investment Fund where it will stay for the next 20 years and pay dividends and pay income to persons who purchase NIF bonds. But they said it couldn't be done. The former Prime Minister said that was a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme. The thing was almost oversubscribed by 100%. Nobody in take her on. I can tell you here tonight, a relative of a former UNC minister called the Ministry of Finance just to get clarification because they wanted to buy NIF bonds, because they realized it was a good deal, and they went and buy. We didn't discriminate against anybody. Anybody could have bought NIF bonds because it was for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So while they were talking their stupidness on their platform, members of their own party were cashing in on NIF bonds because they know that we're getting it done. And that is what I mean by there's a lot of things that we have got done. Another thing that we got done is that we renegotiated, and all credit goes to the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West. You also know him as the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley. They said we couldn't renegotiate with the oil companies because we decided that we were not getting enough money from them, that they were not paying us what we were due. The Prime Minister went all over the world. He went to Houston, he went to London, he went to Holland, negotiating, leading a team. And you know how much money we got from that this year gone? $1.9 billion. That's the result of the work of the Prime Minister and his team. $1.9 billion. And going forward, we may get as much as $1 billion additional revenue every year. And that's just from one oil company. From one. Negotiations continue. I will say no more. But because we are now bringing things into balance, I told you we still hard, not easy. Every month is a struggle to pay salaries. This month was a struggle. But I could assure you tonight, public servant salaries will be paid in this month, November, by your caring PNM government. We have done that every month for the last 48 months. With all these problems that we faced, we make sure people get their salaries. And they will get their salaries this month, and next month, and the month after that, and the month after that, and the month after that. And let me come to the people that we decided to help this year. Because we know we put people under pressure. It wasn't easy. As I told you, we lost $20 billion in national revenue. So we had to deal with that somehow. So we had to cut back. So we had to cut expenditure down from 60 billion to 50 billion. It wasn't easy. But there was a lot of waste. There was a lot of corruption in the system. We were able to cut it out. We're now getting projects done for much less than they were done under the former government. Much cheaper, same project, better quality under this administration. We're getting more done with less. Well, let me tell you what we decided to do this year. Because you can't keep punishing people forever. I mean, people don't elect you to do that. So we started with the elderly. All you ever hear about something called a life certificate? Anybody want pension will know you have to prove you're alive. Every 6 months, you have to go and get somebody to certify that you're still alive. It's called a life certificate. It's a form you have to fill out, and you have to carry it in. But under us, the national insurance has stopped that. The government service, we have dealt with over 20,000 government pensioners, no longer have to submit the life certificates. Soon you will have all government pensioners in the system, no longer having to submit their life certificates. And then we're moving on to recipients of old age pension or senior citizens pension as it is described now. That is over 100,000 people who will no longer, sick, elderly people, no longer have to go through that stress every 6 months of proving their life. And know how we're doing it? Because the other person on our platform tonight is getting it done. So what your Attorney General has done, he has married births and deaths. So easy. So as somebody dies, it automatically goes into the system. It goes to the pension department, and they take them off the system. That is why no longer you have to have a life certificate. And in this year, 2020, nobody, by the end of this year, unless there's some technical problem, will be required to produce a life certificate. That's what your PNM government has done. Let me tell you another thing. You know those forms when you come in the airport? Long form, where you went, how many days you stay away, what's your name, where you're born. That's done. If you go to America now, you don't have to produce a form. If you go to Europe, you don't have to produce a form. So we decided we are going to bring Trinidad and Tobago into the modern age, and we can do it because everybody has a machine-readable passport now. So when you get immigration, they scan your passport. They have all your information. If you are a problem, they will be profiling you long time. They'll pull you aside if you are a problem. But the vast majority will just now have to pass through, scan their passport, and they're gone out the airport. What do you think about that? Progress, PNM style. And on the job training. A lot of young people can't get work because they have no experience. And that's what the OGT on the job training program is all about. You give them experience. It's now 2 years progressively under the PNM. We moved it up from 6 months to 12 months to 24 months. So now persons on the OGT program can work in OGT for 2 years. Right now we have about 5,000 trainees. This year we put arrangements in place to increase that from 5,000 to 8,000. So 3,000 additional young people can now get 2 years employment on the on-the-job training program. And we're increasing their stipend by 10%. Even though the money tight, we decided these people, it's their first job, we need to increase their stipend because they're not really getting a lot of money. So we give them a 10% increase. Then we looked across the board, minimum wage. We decided that it was about time to increase the minimum wage because at $15 an hour, 200 hours for the month or sometimes less than that, how much are you earning? $3,000 a month? That's really not sufficient. So we decided as a cabinet, we'll take it from $15 an hour to $17.50. And that is effective in about 1 week. On the 1st of December, the minimum wage will be effective, moving from $15 an hour to $17.50 an hour. And that could give people as much as an additional $500 a month. It's not chick feed. I heard the other party saying it's nothing, it's peanuts. An extra $500 a month in your pocket, that is not peanuts. And it's tax-free because it'll be below the minimum threshold because one of the things we did as well, when we came in, anybody earning $5,000 a month was free of tax. We raised that to $6,000 a month. So thousands of people now are tax-free. And all of these people will be tax-free. So that extra $400 or $500 a month for the minimum wage worker, all of it will go into their pocket, courtesy the Caring People's National Movement. And we didn't leave anybody out. URP going up by 15%. CPEP going up by 15%. These people earn small wages. It's time to give them a break. So after 4 years of pressure, we decide we have to give back. And we can, because we are managing this economy properly. What about daily paid workers? For years and years and years, governments have promised a pension for daily paid workers. There was another government, they say they were a labor government. They say they had trade union with them. They call themselves the partnership with a set of trade union. They were there for 5 years and 3 months. Yes, one of them was vice president of the Senate, that's true. In this entire 5 years and 3 months, they didn't give daily paid workers a pension. This government is going to give daily paid workers a pension. This government. In fact, I can tell you now, I'm meeting with the National Union of Government and Federated Workers next week. The same person, yes, as the Attorney General reminds me. The same guy who was UNC Vice President of the Senate. I'm meeting with him because he's the President of the Union. We don't discriminate. We meet with positions. You are the President. We're meeting with you. So I will be meeting with the NUGFW next week to start the discussion on the mechanism for introducing a minimum pension for daily paid workers in 2020, courtesy your PNM government. And we leave everybody out, We decide we're going to the top now. There are a lot of businesses bawling for something called VAT refunds. It really affects small businesses more than big businesses. Big businesses have the capital. They could wait a little longer on VAT refunds than small businesses. But a lot of small businesses, after they submit their VAT returns, because you have to pay the VAT, you have to pay VAT on any invoice that you issue. And then if your amount of VAT that you charge is more than the amount of VAT that you pay, you're entitled to a refund. There's billions of dollars in refunds. We came in and we met a liability that the other government gifted to us of $4.5 billion in VAT refunds. That's what we come and we find there. We owe in $4.5 billion in VAT refunds. It wasn't easy to deal with that. Remember I told you revenue dropped from 57 billion to 37 billion. And then we had to pay public servants almost $6 billion in back pay. And that character from Tobago, I saw him on Facebook talking a set of nonsense. Our public relations officer put out a press release to counter the nonsense that Mr. Duke says every day. That how we ain't give nobody any back pay. Imagine that, Everybody know, the whole world know, that the PNM government, one of the first things we had to do was to find over $5 billion in back pay. So I was on the platform in Barataria the other day. I read out all the back pay to the police service, to the prisons, to the defense force, to the Tobago House of Assembly, to the regional health authority workers. When I finish, across $5.5 billion in back pay paid by your Caring PNM administration. But Duke on Facebook saying we ain't paying no money. Think it easy with them? Wasn't easy at all. Wasn't easy at all. The other government, they tried to win the election to get them 14% increase, but they ain't getting no back pay. They leave it for we. A gift for we to deal with. And we dealt with it because we are a responsible government. And I want you to understand the challenges we have had. $5.5 billion plus in back pay we had to pay, and we paid $4.5 billion in VAT refunds strangling us. So what we decided to do this year, because it affects businesses, we know. So we decide we will offer them bonds. We will give them bonds. The bonds will be tradable. They will be transferable. They could keep the bonds. They could cash them in at maturity. We're paying a small interest on the bonds. They could take them to the bank. They could sell the bonds. It will give them the cash flow that they need. $3 billion in VAT bonds in the first instance will come out early in 2020. So we decide we're going down below, we're going on top. Because we had done many other things for the middle class. We had exempted stamp duty on purchase of your first home up to a price of $1.5 million because we decided we go check everybody. Of course, we have to focus on people at the lower end. That is our focus. But we don't only focus there. We focus in the middle. We increase the allowance for university education. We increase the annual allowance for university education expenses as a tax deduction. We did that, this PNM government, between 2015 and 2019. We did that when we also increased the personal allowance for tax. We did that to help the middle class. We're increasing wages now for URP, CPEP, OJT, daily paid workers' pension for the working class. And we put in VAT bonds for the upper class. We're helping the whole country because we are a government for one and for all. But I must stress, our focus is on the working class. Because the PNM has always been rooted in the working class. We are a people-centered organization. So I want you to understand the many, many, many things this government has done. There are so many things we have done. If you go and check the 2020 budget speech, I did a recital of the many, many things we had done. For example, let me just give you some of them. We restarted the Point Fortin Highway. One of the things when we came in, we met a contract in crisis. That is the San Fernando to Point Fortin Highway. The contractor was bankrupt. The government had already given the contractor billions of dollars. The whole job stand up. And just before the general election of 2015, the previous government, you know what they did? There was a clause in the contract with the contractor that if he went bankrupt, you could immediately cancel the contract. You know what they do? Just before the election, contractor went into bankruptcy, they take out that clause. Think it easy? We come and we face that. So we couldn't even deal with the contractor for bankruptcy. But there was $1 billion in performance bonds in banks all over the world. They say we could have never get it. But we had a high-powered team of lawyers and hard-working ministers. We went after that and we got back the $1 billion and we start back the Point Fortin Highway. That is how we get things done. We are serious people. This country has serious problems and it requires serious people to solve them. And the PNM is comprised of serious people. So those of you who go down south and go past San Fernando and go down towards Point Fortin, you will see the tremendous amount of construction work that is taking place down there. They just opened a section by Mosquito Creek. It's supposed to be a 2-lane. Well, they opened 1 lane, but it's elevated above the water. So no longer do you have this problem with high tide and salt water destroying vehicles along Mosquito Creek. Now you're driving way above the sea level thanks to your PNM government. And we're going to finish that highway. We are going to finish that highway. We are going to do what they couldn't do because they are a woulda, coulda, shoulda government. We getting it done. Every time you hear them, look, I don't want to steal my friend's thunder, but I'll take a little bit of it, Mr. Attorney General. I'll take a little bit. The Attorney General laid the marijuana decriminalization legislation in the Parliament on Friday. He do it. They say they woulda do it, they coulda do it, they shoulda do it, but they ain't do it. He do it. We, and I can't speak in personalities. That was a government decision. We have done that. So we restarted that Point Fortin Highway. Now we're continuing the highway from Komuto going east to Grande. Go up there, you'll see all the construction taking place. They take us to the Privy Council on that. They try to block it. We win at the Privy Council, and the construction continues towards east. And we're also developing the road from Grande to Toko, and we'll be building a port in Toko, because it's about time that the people in the northeast of Trinidad got a break. And we are a government, we think nationally. We think of development nationally. We develop in the southwest, the northeast, central Trinidad, north Trinidad. That is your government, your PNM government getting it done. Hospitals. Hospitals, you'd have seen the Prime Minister turn the sod for a new, what they call a central block, which is essentially a huge hospital on the ground of the Port of Spain General Hospital. Is we doing that? And let me tell you something, we're doing it without corruption. Because we had a tender for that project, and they wanted us to award the contract for $1.6 billion. We said, no way, do it over. We do it over. It come in at $1 billion. We save over $500 million. So we're doing things in reverse. If it was them, they award the contract for 1.6. We say, nah, and we save $500 million for that new hospital in Port of Spain. Prime Minister also turned the sword for a new hospital in Sandy Grande. We had hospital under construction in Point Fortin, under construction in Arima. I'm just giving you some idea of the things that we have been able to do with little money. We have used our imagination. We went in every cupboard and we pulled out every cent, every shilling, and that is how we've been able to run this country. So I want you to understand that from a financial perspective and a development perspective, this PNM government is getting it done. And to you, the people of Diego Martin, I expect on December 2nd, you will get it done. We have 10 candidates. I don't want to hear anybody crying. We have a record in Diego Martin. All 10-0. And we intend to keep our record 10-0. For every one of you, I expect to see you dancing at Balize House on December 2nd. So, I know you have it in you. I know if you do your work. I know if you prepare for December 2nd, every one of you will win easily. But you have to do your work. You have to make sure you pull out people. Don't take it for granted. We don't want anybody to get an alderman in this corporation. And I speak now to the wider Diego Martin and to people in Port of Spain who may be listening. We, the PNM, must get over 75% of the total vote in Diego Martin and in Port of Spain. Over 75% of the vote. This is no time for PNM people to stay home and say PNM win already. We want the votes. We want all 4 aldermen in Diego Martin and all 4 aldermen in Port of Spain. And I know you will get it done. I know, like us, you will get it done. So all I will say tonight is the usual. Great is the PNM. The PNM is great, and we shall prevail.